And that witness is Gail Kimbell. She is Chief Gail Kimbell. She is the 16th chief and the first female chief of the U.S. Forest Service. Her long and distinguished career working in federal forestry began in 1974. She has extensive experience working in our nation's forests throughout the West, including Alaska, Oregon, Colorado, and Washington. She assumed her current position as Chief of the U.S. Forest Service on February 5th, 2007. We welcome you, Chief. Whenever you are ready, please begin.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members of the Select Committee, thank you for inviting me today. I will focus my oral remarks on what the Forest Service is doing to address interactions between wildfire and climate change. First, I would like to note that I am accompanied by Dr. Susan Kennard. Susan is the National Program Leader for Fire Ecology Research, right behind me. And I'm also accompanied by Mark Rounsaville, who is my Deputy Director for Fire and Aviation for the agency. And I also must disclose, because I understand there are some baseball fans, that everything I know about baseball I learned in Fenway Park.
She learned about ecology, she learned in Yellowstone Park, okay? So we just give, deference to which park teaches which subject,
Cheap shot.
Thank you, Chief.
Scientists tell us that climate change may increase the incidence and severity of wildfires in some parts of the United States. Decisions made today by resource managers and policymakers will have implications throughout the next century. I am a forester with over 33 years of experience, but I'm not a scientist. Still, the Forest Service has some of the best scientists and research available on forests and climate change. For example, Forest Service scientists participated in the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC. They were recently awarded a Nobel Peace Prize, and they concluded that disturbances from pests, diseases, and fire are projected to have increasing impacts on forests with longer fire seasons and large increases in area burned. While we have much to learn about the interactions between climate change and wildfire, we are taking science-based, adaptive management approaches today to reduce the impact of wildfires, to mitigate the impacts of climate change on our nation's forests and grasslands, and to improve the forest potential for mitigating the effects of climate change. I was in Southern California last week, observing what is being done to suppress those fires, and talking with fire crews and fire managers about their efforts. Along with the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection and other agency partners, the firefighters are doing everything within their power and qualifications to contain those fires. Without question, we are seeing more wildfires covering more acres in recent years, a result of extended drought and the accumulation of fuels. Climate change is certainly a contributor to the factors affecting the current fire situation, but more needs to be known about the details. We need more information before we can conclusively answer the question of the relationship between wildfire and climate change. A recent study by the Department's Office of Inspector General found that the majority of the Forest Service's fire suppression costs were related to fighting fire in the wildland-urban interface. According to our recently published National Forests on the Edge, just published last week, almost 22 million acres of rural private lands, about 8% of all private lands, located within 10 miles of the National Forest boundaries, are projected to undergo increases in housing densities by 2030. This, coupled with climate change factors of drought and warmer temperatures, will increase the complexity and the costs of firefighting. The Forest Service has conducted over 2 decades of focused climate research, 3 decades of air pollution research, and has long experience in scientific assessments that provide a firm scientific foundation for addressing the challenges of forest and rangeland management relative to climate change. Forest Service Research and Development continues to study the interactions between factors affecting fire behavior and the potential effects of changing climate on fire patterns and vegetation. There are important knowledge gaps we must address, such as wide variability in the estimates of fire emissions. While we have information for a few systems, we do not have good information on all systems on how burn severity affects emissions or vegetation recovery. Current models of smoke dispersion need to be improved to more accurately predict the potential effects on human health. We are developing improved projections of the impacts of changing precipitation patterns on forest ecosystems to help us adapt to and mitigate those changes. In partnership with other land managers, we are working to identify the landscape-level forest conditions most likely to sustain forest ecosystems in a changing climate. The IPCC in its fourth assessment report states, in the long term, a sustainable forest management strategy aimed at maintaining or increasing forest carbon stocks while producing an annual sustained yield of timber fiber or energy from the forest will generate the largest sustained mitigation benefit. Forestry can make a very significant contribution to a low-cost global mitigation portfolio. It is important to note that not only can forests store carbon and help mitigate greenhouse gas emissions, they can also provide clean water, wildlife habitat, and recreational opportunities, among other significant environmental and economic amenities. Other elements of a broad strategy include treating fuels to reduce the threat of wildfire to community and to other forest values, keeping forests in forest, keeping forests healthy, and reforesting degraded lands. While recent wildfire activity reflects some of what we have experienced with climate change, management of fire and vegetation and thoughtful restoration, including that of burned areas, can and should be part of the solution. Communities of vastly different interests across the country are witnessing changes in the forests they care about, and they are coming together to develop guidelines to support forest restoration. The Forest Service has focused resources on improving forest health and the resilience of ecosystems to climate change. Many of the approaches we use to reduce fire risk and restore fire-affected systems also improve forest health and productivity and increase the resilience of America's forests to changing climate. Although forests are not the solution to controlling greenhouse gases, forest and sustainable forest management must be part of a broad set of strategies that contribute to the solution. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss these issues with the committee, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Chief, for being here at this time.